Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're at the BF bench with a fractured parlor table. Now this table comes with a glass top, which just simply sits inside this rabbet here. It's open on this end, and there's a pair of cleats right here because a smaller table of similar design slides inside here, and you've got two tables. And because of its lightweight design and construction, it has come apart and a couple pieces have broken, and we're going to be putting it back together. The way this joint was made at the factory, they just put some glue on it, and not very much glue from the looks of it, and then held it in place with three brads from a nail gun. Now I can't put it back together that way, so I've got to find out some way to clamp this until the glue dries. Now the problem I have here is that clamps can only put pressure between two flat surfaces. And what I have is a round surface on the front and an angled surface on the back. So what I've got to do is make some flat surfaces. Starts off with this block, 45-degree angle there, and a groove cut so it'll fit around the cleat. And I can put it right here, a little pad to protect the finish. Get it clamped in place. Now the round surface presents a kind of a peculiar problem. What I've come up with is a block that holds onto the clamp. Put it in there like this, hold this down. And the reason I had to put it around the bar like this is because when I tried it with just a block with the circle cut in it, it kept trying to rock off. That problem with curved surfaces again. And so that's my dry fit, the most important part of the whole job. Now I'm going to take it apart, clean off any excess glue, make sure I've got it perfectly aligned, add some glue, and then let it sit overnight. These bar clamps usually come with a little button on the end to stop that piece from sliding off, but that also prevents you from making these kinds of adapters and fixtures for them. So I grind them off, and it's not a lot of work to get one back together. Now I can turn my attention to this part, and of course, as usual, I find this is an old repair. It didn't fit back together when they did it, and so as a result is that it fits even worse now with old glue and pieces from this part transferred to this part when it broke again. This little piece right here was originally on here, and when they glued it back together and it broke again, it just jumped to the other side. So what I'm going to have to do is trim this off, get this edge back even again, and then come back and clean this up so that we can get something pretty close to the original fit. Someone asked me how I drill half a hole in a board, and there's a couple ways to do it. One is to drill the hole and then saw the board in half. But the way I usually prefer is to drill two halves of a hole at one time. I need to cut away a little bit of material on the inside of this surface, and that's the purpose of these two half holes, to give me something solid here that I can work on without worrying about creating more damage than it came in with. Now, after a minimal cutting on both pieces, I've got a joint that will go together acceptably. It's never going to be perfect. It's just not realistic. Now the problem with clamping something like this is I've got to squeeze it together and try to keep these two edges aligned, and I've got to pull it this way at the same time. Not something that a conventional clamp can do. So what I have is an unconventional clamp, and this is a piece of chainsaw fuel line. You can also use IV tubing, which will work just as well. But this will apply the tension to hold it together and pull it that direction at the same time. Now I've got both joints glued up and secured with the fuel line clamp. And that's another overnight glue job. We'll worry about this in the morning. Now this is supposed to be a video about clamping, but whenever you do this kind of repair, you're always going to lose some wood because it's going to splinter around the edges, and that requires wood filler. And you're left with this very pale piece right here, and you got to do something with that. Now you could try to match the stain, but that's pretty much tedious and sometimes totally futile. What I prefer is hobby paint. They come in unbelievable number of shades, and for something like this I start off with burnt umber and just put a light coat over all the bare wood and the wood filler, and come back with a lint-free cloth and wipe it down, and it leaves a very fine layer on it. Let that dry for a little while, and then I'll come back and put another layer on it, and the color will eventually come in and blend fairly well. Now once I have the bare wood finished, I come back with a brown that's got a little more red in it, which this is nutmeg. Let that cure just a little bit more before I wipe it down. And once that's completely dry, I'll come back with some paste wax or maybe just a little wipe-on poly to restore a little bit of the gloss. This is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and I appreciate you sitting through this video on creative clamping. I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. If there's any comments or questions, please put them in, because I read all of them and I answer all of them, and frankly, since I don't get many, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Again, thank you for watching.